We're about to study in the Tractate Berachot, page 61, and how proper is it to study now at this time between the Day of Atonement and the Festival of Sukkot. One of the items that we read during the Festival of Sukkot in Shabbat Chol HaMoed is the book of Kohelet, book of Ecclesiastic. The Abu Draham, one of the great rabbinic commentators, explained to us the purpose of reading Ecclesiastic at the Festival of Sukkot by King Solomon. It's because we left Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, with a feeling that we open a new chapter, a new year, a new opportunity, and maybe that lead to all kind of a feverly life, a life of vanity, life of careless, because it's like a freedom out of a new chapter. Therefore, King Solomon wrote the book of Ecclesiastic to put a person in the right perspective for the year. That's very much appropriate also with our study, because this page involved, first for sure, is a statement from the book of Ecclesiastic in relationship between man and God, but also this page, this daf in particular, dealing with faith, with trust, with modesty, with a proper behavior. ואמר רב משום רבי מאיר, לעולם יהיו דבריו של אדם מועטים לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, שנאמר אל תבהל על פיך ולבך אל ימהר להוציא דבר על לפני האלוקים, כי האלוקים בשמיים ואתה על הארץ, על כן יהיו דבריך מעטים. This is a text from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, the beginning of the chapter, and this is an important statement saying that the words of a person should be few before God. And the statement is from Ecclesiastes saying, be not rash with your mouth and let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. God is in heaven, you are on earth, so therefore your words should be few. Rashi on the book of Ecclesiastes said, you have to be careful when you speak critically of God. Why? So he brought a Midrash that he said, if the weak one is above and the strong one below, the fear of the weak one is upon the strong one. How much more so when it is the strong one, which it is God, who is above, and the weak one, the mortal man, below, we should surely be in awe of God and not to speak rashly of God. דרש רב נחמן בר יצחק, מהי דכתיב וייצר השם אלוקים את האדם בשני יהודים? The scripture in the book of Genesis used the word vayitzer with two yuds. God created and four men. Why it's a two yud? שני יצרים ברא הקדוש ברוך הוא, אחד יצרתו ואחד יצרה. God created יוצר, meaning the former, and yetzer, it's the inclination. God created two inclinations, the positive, the good one, and the negative one. Yetzer hara, the bad inclination. Matkifla, so that's the reason why we have the two. Matkifla, רב נחמן בר יצחק, אלא בהמה דלא כתיב בה וייצר, לית ליצרה, ואקרא חזינא דמזכא ונשכא ובאתא. When it's written about animals, so it's not written the word vayitzer without even one yud, yet you see that the animals has a evil inclination. You see that they do all kind of vicious act, and they do all kind of that create damage by animals. אלא כדי רבי שמעון בן פזי, דאמר רבי שמעון בן בפזי, אוי לי מיוצרי ואוי לי מיצרי. So Rashi explained it beautifully. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi tells us that woe to me for my creator, because if I go by the evil inclination, woe, what's the creator is going to do to me? But if I don't go after my bad inclination, because the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, created all kind of, which the Rambam call akoach hamedameh, the imaginations, and the person, when he's constantly thinking all kind of things that it's in violation of Torah laws, it's create all kind of reaction in the mind of a person. So wow from the Creator and wow from the Yetzer Hara. In Hebrew it's ringing beautifully. Oili mi yotzri, oili mi yitzri. Wow to me in both ways. So that's the Yud and Yud. Iname k'te Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Lazar, damar Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Lazar, du partzufim bara HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adam shenamar achor v'kelem tzartani. So this is something deep. They said, the descendant said, from the back and front you have formed me, which means that this is a text in the book of Psalm 139 that that God created the first man forward and backward together. Rashi said, "Lashon tzura da'aynu shte partzufim," is like two faces. God created the first man, the first Adam. So either some say that the back and forth of human body was created twice, so that's one way look, or there is another interpretation that said that God created like a double face. Vayiven Hashem Elokim et hatzela. So the Almighty God created the tzela. They said in the book of Bereshit, Genesis chapter 2, that God build the side that they taken from a man into a woman. Rav u'Shmuel amar partzuf, echad amar zanav. So one said that it was a face, okay. So Rashi said here, one at the front, one on the back, and he sliced it to two, and he made one of them Chava. That's one interpretation. Another one, it was like outside, like a tail, like a tailbone. So the one was like a tail. It's like something that's coming out. The Gemarah said in Megillah about Queen Vashti, that she have a keren, she have something like a little bit something at the top of her head. That's the reason why she refused to come to Achashverosh's party. So in that sense, it created like in a tailbone. We understand the one who said that it's applied to face, to the figure. So we understand why King David said, Achor vakedem tzartani. It's Psalm 139. So that God created back and forth. But the one who said that it's applied to the tail part, so why they said back and front? So the answer, they said, Amidah, which means Rabbi Ami said that it was, when it was Bereshit, it was the creation, it was the last one of creation, which was the first man. Which means when God created the world, He did all the preparation for the man, that He have everything ready for him, and he was the last one in that sense of the creation, the first man. Vekedem leforanut, and was the first of misfortune. Now explain. We understand what we said, the last one in the creation, Maaseh Bereshit. Why? Because it was the Friday night, right? The Shabbat Eve. That's the last one. Ela vakedem leporanut poranut demai. If you tell me that he was the first one of misfortune, what type of misfortune? Ilema poranut denachash. והתניא רבי אומר, בגדולה מתחיל מה גדול, ובקטנה מתחיל מה קטן. If you tell me that it's applied to the story of the scorpion, so you have to say that they begin with the most permanent person, and when it's a matter of misfortune, we begin with the last, the most least prominent person. בגדולה מתחיל מה גדול, הכתיב לדבר משה לארון ולעזר ובניו הכהנים הנותרים קחו. If you talk about the prominence, so God talk number one, and Moshe talk first to Aharon, second to Elazar, third Itamar, Banav Anotarim. So it's like going in a process of greatness, okay? בכללה מתחילים מן הקטן, when it's misfortune, you start with the least one, which is, בתחילה נתגלה נחש, ולבסוף נתגלה חווה, ולבסוף נתגלה אדם. So beginning God cursed the scorpion, and then Eve, and then Adam. אלא, so you have to say, פורענות דמבול, the misfortune of the great flood. Why? Because it's written, דכתיב, וימח את כל היקום על פני האדמה מאדם עד בהמה. So they said that God destroyed all the creation at the time of the great flood, from men to animals, ברישא אדם והדר בהמה. That the fact that mention is mentioned first, so it means that it was the first man who destroyed, and then following was the animals. Okay, so it was like, it was a chronological order of destruction, the Maharsha said. So now we talk about the Chava was from a tail, right? So he said, if you tell me that it's applied the side, the Torah said the side, it's applied to a figure. Now we understand what the word Vayitzer, we use the two Yuds in the word when God created, when He formed. And the one who said it applied to the tail, what does that mean? Why you need the two Yudim of the Vayitzer? Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. That we said earlier, only mi yotzri. Why from the Yetzer Hara, why only from the Creator? The one who said it's applied to a figure. So when he said that God created Zachar u'Nekeva, male and female, He created them. So Rashi said, Mashman tchilat biratam tre'avu. So we understand at the beginning it was like double, two. The one who said it's tail. So what does that mean when a pasuk said that God created them male and female? Which means that basically women created much later. It's written like in a plural. Zachar, male and female, God created them. So it looks like two. That God created them with His image. Which means Adam, what is Adam? Yechidi, it's like singular. How you can reconcile the differences. There is a concept that it's called עלה במחשבתו יתברך, which means God was thinking in a certain way and fulfilling in different. There is a process in the world of Hasidut, they explain there is a process that's called מחשבה, דיבור and מעשה. Thought, speaking and action, which is a process. So in that sense, in our language, as God was thinking at the beginning to create double, and then He created only one first. The Tshuvat HaRashba elaborated and he said, don't think that God changed His mind. That's not what it means. It means it was a process of creation. The one who said that it's applied to a figure, so we understand what it's written, that God filled the field in flesh in its place, which means after God took that limb from Adam, so it's fine. If you tell me it's tail, so what does that mean that God closed, filled the flesh in its place? They explain, that's applied to where? To a point of incision, that you take out the tail, so that spot God will place the flesh. So one of the reasons the Midrash explained to us, just a side note, excuse me, that originally, if God leave Adam awake at that procedure, He have no interest in Eve. One of the reasons that God put him in sleep, it's because in order for her to have an attraction to him. That's one of the reasons. So, by the way, the halachot that we explain about nida, etc., is related to that point. That is a certain period and a certain time by halacha that is a relationship forbidden, a certain time is a relationship allows, and that's one of the reasons, the idea that it's like every month is like a honeymoon. That's part of that the way that God in our language have a process of thought in creating Adam and Eve. We understand that the one who said the tail, we understand that that's who said the build, which means that God built. But and the one who said that it's applied to the figure. So what does that mean when we use the word build? Because Chava the body of the wife of Adam was basically fully fashioned, so you don't need to separate from Adam. What does that mean that God built the side that take from Adam and from a man and make it a woman? מלמד שכלאה הקדוש ברוך הוא לחווה והביאה לאדם הראשון. שכן קוראים, בקרחי העם קוראים לקליאתה בנייתה. So it's like קליאתה, it's like you know the ladies can take, when they have a long hair, they can do a, which call maybe in our slang, braid like cuckoo, they make it like, so that's the way you made. דבר אחר, ויבן אמר רב, חיסדא ואמר לה מתנית נתנה, מלמד שבנאה הקדוש ברוך הוא לחווה כבניין אוצר. That God built have like a shape of the storehouse, which means מה אוצר זה קצר מלמעלה ורחב למטה כדי לקבל פירות, אף אישה קצרה מלמעלה ורחבה למטה כדי לקבל תבלד. One of the miracle that human body is the way that God created the Eve, the woman, that in one hand she accepted, but the body formulated in such a way that that will be able to observe what men give and be able to build the future generation. And that's one of the great kindness that God made when He created Eve in a special form. Vayviya el Adam. So the pasuk continue, and they said that God brought her to Adam, the first man. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Lazar, melamed shenasa HaKadosh Baruch Hu shushvin l'Adam harishon. That God was a shadchan, was a matchmaker, right? He was like make the wedding arrangement. מכאן לימדה דורה דרך אחרת שיחזור גדול עם קטן בשביל שפינות ואל יראה לו. That sometimes it's honor for an elderly person to involve or someone who's a great person or dignitary, to involve even this thing that look that's a low rank. It should not be a denigration, it should be an honor. Because if you do a matchmaking and you create more future generation, it's something that should feel an honor and not denigration of his character. We explained in the Sukkah, the Halacha said that even a most dignitary person should involve physically with building the Sukkah. Remember, we studied those Halachot, that's the same here. We learned it from Hashem, the way that God did it, He was like the wedding arrangement in there. So according to one who says that the side that the evil fashion, it's a female, was attached to a male figure, so what is the one in the front? How you say the front and the back? We understand that it has to be the male. Why? The Tanya, person should not follow women, in other words, strange women in the way, meaning go and look and go stick on her back in the street. Vafilu ishto, they said even that behind, because it's like he gaze lustfully after her. If it's in front of the bridge, he should pass. The one who go purposely beyond the woman, when you see the shade of her in the river, for example, so they have a strong language that said is no show in the world to come. And Rashi explained what does that mean. So Rashi said, because he looked at her and she is a married woman, right? And it's basically he look at her when she's taking the skirt not to get wet, so he look at her. So Tosefta said, "Im ragil bekach." The fish yavol lidei niruf v'sofo yod yigunah. Tosefta said he add to that the person will get used to that. Eventually he reach the point that he will do adultery, and therefore he go to Gehinom. That's what it means. He have no share in the world to come. Tanu Rabbanan. Since we talk about this issue, so they elaborate on more point in modesty. They said even a righteous person, if he is on purpose, try to physically handle the money to women, and while he's doing that he touch them and do all of that, not just by doing some, so he do it constantly on purpose to touch women. Just an example, when he transfer money to them, so they said even he will go to punish in the world to come. Yad le yad lo tinakel, because they said hand to hand he will not be spread from evil. So what does that mean? So they said that because the book of Mishnah, the Proverb 11s, they say that a person who does that, he basically create for himself destruction. That's what it means, the judgment of Ginom. Amar Rav Nachman, Manoach haaretz haya. Remember that we said about the story of Manoach, that he and his wife, and the story of Elisha, etc. So they said he was an ignorant person. Why? That he went after his wife, which means that by using that in the book of Judges, chapter 13, that he was, Rashi said that לא שימש תלמידי חכמים שלא למד משנה זו שני וללך אדם אחרי אישה ואפילו אשתו, which means that he Manoach was not a Torah scholar that was familiar with that the person should not walk behind woman, his wife. מה תקיף לרב נחמן בר יצחק אלא מעתה גבל קנה כתיב וילך קנה אחרי אשתו, but it's written אלקנה that in the book of Samuel that he went after his wife. וגבל אישה דכתיב ויום קום וילך עליה, is also that Isha, it's written that he was arose and follow her. ההכנה מאחריה ממש, it doesn't mean that physically he follow her, אלא אחרי דבריה ואחרי עצתה. It means that he followed the word of her and advice of her. ההכנה מאחרי דבריה ואחרי עצתה is applied to word of advice but not physically. אמר רב אשי, אלמן אמר כמה רב נחמן מנוח המארץ היה, אפילו ברב נמי לא קרא. So you said that he was ignorant, Manoach. You said that he is not even read the scripture in school. Why? Because שנאמר ותקבו רבקה ובנותיה ותקבו בנים ותלכנה אחרי האיש, that they said about Rebecca in the book of Berachot, that said in Berachot in Genesis 24 that Rebecca arose with her maidens and she rode upon the camels and proceeded after Eliezer ולא לפני האיש, not the front of him. אמר רבי יוחנן אחרי הריב ולא אחרי אישה, אחרי אישה ולא אחרי עובד כוכבים, אחרי עובד כוכבים ולא אחרי בית כנסת בשעת ציבור מתפללים. There's three things. Person should follow a lion and not behind a woman, beyond woman but not behind an idol, and behind an idol and not behind the synagogue when they are praying. So it's all the idea that a person should understand that number one, it's a modesty, number two, it's idol worshipping, number three, when people praying, it's very incongruous to a person to pass by when people praying and go behind that. It's inappropriate. But all of that we said that a person go behind the synagogue when they're praying, but if they're carrying something, it is no objections, right? So Rashi explained what does that mean. So he said that because if it doesn't appear as a burden he is carrying, so that's different. But if it's another entrance, so then it's not a problem. But it's all apply that if he walk, but if he ride a donkey, so it's not an issue. But if he is and all of that apply that she's just going around, but if he carrying the feeling, there is no objection. Amarav. Since we talk about evil inclination, so Rav said, "En v'yetzer hara domeh lezvuv." Yetzer hara, the evil inclination, it resembles as a fly. V'yoshev ben shtei miftachei halev. He sits in our allegorical way. It's sit in two gateway of the heart. Shene'emar zvuvei mavet yav'ish yabi'a shemen rokeach yakar v'chokhma mikavod sichlut me'at. They said in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10. So it means that it's all evil inclination, that it's staying in between. ושמואל אמר כמין חיטה הוא דומה, שנאמר לפתח אתה צרובץ. So they said about יצר הרע, after the story of Cain and Abel, God said in Berachot in Genesis 4 that he is like a wheat, because they said that sin crouches at the door. So that's again, it's applied to sin, chatat. It's associated with the Hebrew word chita. Rashi said, Lashon chita darishla. That again, there is a more interpretation like the Maharal. It's said that that's much deeper. It's Kabbalistic, like between two evil inclination in the Kabbalah literature. It's called Nefesh Be'emit and Nefesh Elokit, godly soul and animal soul, but it's above the scope of our discussion today. Tanu Rabbanan, שתי כליות יש בו באדם. a person have two kidneys, meaning it's again expression of a eternal debate that the person have. One it's giving a good advice, the other bad. And it seems that the good one is in the right and the bad one in the left. Why? Lev chacham limino velev ksil lismono. They said in Ecclesiastic, again I told you today we have a lot of Ecclesiastic, chapter 10, which is appropriate for the Sukkot Chol HaMoed reading, that the heart of the wise man is on the right and the heart of the fool and is his left. Tanu Rabbanan. Klayot yoatzot. Now we separate the body, and we explain how the reflection of the mind and the body, one connected to the other. So they said, Klayot yoatzot, the kidney is counsel, which means that a kidney, it's give you et halev asaken, Rashi said, which means that they give a counsel to the heart. Lev mevin, the heart is the one who understands. We take the counsel and accepted it. Lashon mechatech, the tongue is articulates. Pe gomer, the mouth conclude the process because he expressed that decision. Veshet machnisu motzicho mine ma'achal, they how do you say this? The
esophagus.
The esophagus. Thank you. So they take inside and outside all the body. Kaneh motzi kol, the windpipe gives voice, which is this is the part that bring in the voice, and then re'ah shoevet kol minei mashkim, the lung draws all type of liquid. So Rashi said, אף על פי שהם נכנסים בקרס דרך חבשת הריאה מוצצתם ושואבתם מבעל לדופני הקרס, which means even the liquid is coming to the esophagus, the lung absorb it to the stomach. Kaved koes, the liver make it a person angry, the anger of the body. Mara זורקת פה דיבור מנחתו, but the gall injects drop and comet. Tchol menake, the spleen, it's basically clean the body. It's just make a process of cleaning. Kevan tochen, the gizzard grind the food. Kiva yishana, the stomach sleep, put the burn on the sleep. Af neor, the nose awake, right? Neor hayashen, yashen neor, the sleepless one, which means the stomach wakes, and the wakes one, the nose sleeps. Nimok veolech lo, and he is languish away. Tanya, v'im shneim yishnim o shneim neorim, miyad met. Right? But if God forbid, they both, the stomach and the nose, sleep in both, person cannot survive this type of situation. Tanya, Rabbi Yosef Galil Omer, Tzadikim yetzer tov shoftam, shenemar v'libi halal bekirbi. So they said in the Tehillim in Psalm 109 that King David said that v'libi, my evil inclination is dying me. So it means that the righteous the judge rule by the good inclination. Reshaim yetzer shoftam, the opposite, the wicked by the evil inclination. Shene'amar ne'um pesha al rasha b'ker v'libi en pachad elokim neged enai. That's said in Psalm 36 that King David said, I say my heart evil speak the wicked, but like there's no God in between me. Benonim zeh v'zeh shoftam, but the average people, it's in the middle of that. Shene'amar ki ya'amod li'yamin evyon Hoshea mishaftem l'shod. It said in Psalm 109 that God shall stand by the right of the poor for the rule of his soul. So basically King David said it because they explained ki arago betanit, that David was fast so much that in a sense he killed the Yetzer Hara, he killed the evil inclination by fast. But the rabbis explained to us that the whole idea is Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, is the righteous, which is that all the deeds he turn around for good deeds, which means that if you have any debate, you make a decision, the positive decision. The evil, opposite. But the Beinoni have a debate with himself all the times, this way, that way. He was thinking this way, or etc. Now, Amar le'abai lo shavik marchai lechol beria. So he said, if you're saying that you are call yourself Benoni, that you call yourself that you are the mid, Rashi said, if you call yourself the middle ground, So this is nobody else righteous if a great man like you call yourself Benoni. And I suggested that people should read the Likutei Amarim Tanya from the great Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He elaborates on the concept of Tzaddik and Benoni in chapter 6 in Tanya. Beginning chapter and then elaborate in chapter 6. V'amar Rava, lo ibrei alma, this world was created, ela lireshi igmuri o letzaddik imrei, either to the very wicked people or very righteous. Amar Rava, he explained, leida inish benafshe, a person should know for himself, im tzaddiku im lav, regardless if he's righteous or not. Amar Rav, lo ibre alma ela le'achav ben omri v'lechanina ben dosa. Achav was very rich, Chanina ben dosa was very poor. Le'achav ben omri ha'olam hazeh, lechanina ben dosa ha'olam haba. What does that mean? Because that's what we said in Ecclesiastic, a person should tell in his heart. Because he have in his thought, in machshava, if he have a thought, if it's from good side or from the bad side, because who he said that schar mitzvah, for the reward for a mitzvah, it's a mitzvah. So a person does a mitzvah, he doesn't expect a reward. Just by having a mitzvah, he is thanking God. But wicked person is thinking, oh, I did a mitzvah, I want a reward right now in this world. So basically, all the joy in this world, he get a reward in order to avoid any reward in the world to come. So that's a different perception between good and bad. The wicked person expecting the immediate reward for the good deeds in this world, which means all this conception is the materialistic conception. Good deed have a reward right away. Now we return to the Mishnah. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך. We said in the Mishnah, you should love your Lord your God. תני רבי אליעזר אומר, אם נאמר בכל לבבך, למה נאמר בכל מאודיך? If you said with all your heart, why you need with all your resources. ואם נאמר בכל מאודיך, למה נאמר בכל נפשך? Why you said twice? Why כפל? Why you said both? אלא, אם יש לך אדם שגופו חבר עולם ממונו, לחרנך בכל נפשך. If they have a person that his body is more precious than his money, so he said with all your soul, right? Love God, avoid idolatry. ואם יש אדם שממונו חביב עליו מגופו, לכך למה בכל מלך, if you have a person that he loves his money more than his body, so he said with all of your resources, right? רבי עקיבא אומר, בכל נפשך אפילו נותן נפשך. רבי עקיבא was a tzaddik, so he said the ikar is the nefesh, the soul, the soul is meaning that even God, in a sense, taking your soul, you still need to believe in God. Soon you see an example. Famous story, תנו רבנו, פעם אחת גזרה מלכות הרשעה שלא יזכו לישראל בתורה. Once the Roman government put a decree, the Jewish people should not engage in study Torah. בא פפוס בן יהודה מצאו לרבי עקיבא, שהמכיר קללות ברבים ועוסק בתורה. So Papus ben Yehuda, it's a question, who was it? It's a controversy. According to what we understand, it was a Talmid Chacham, that he had a chavivut Torah, that he loved the Torah, and he was close to Rabbi Akiva. So, because soon you see, call him Akiva in the personal level. But Papus came and he realized that Rabbi Akiva is not just doing it in private, he is just doing it in public. Amar le Akiva et amerei mipnei malchut, don't you afraid from the evil regime? So the Maharsha and the Tzlach said, why you need to do such a thing in public? Why you need to do it ostentatiously, to tell everybody teaching Torah? They put a degree, do it in your basement. Why you need to make it, it's like the old debate. Should we put the menorah, like the Chabad, in the center of every city in the world? Or should we put our Hanukkah candles in private and Betzina? It's an old argument. So he said, Akiva yatarem pnei malchut. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this publicly, and you publicly proclaim of fighting the אמר לו, המשול לך משל למעלה עבר דומה, I give you an allegory, what does that mean? לשועל שהמלך על גב הנהר ברא דגים שהיו מתקבצים במקום אחד. The fox walked close to the water and he saw many fish going to one spot. אמר להם, מפני מה אתם ברוכים? He said to the fish, why are you running away? אמרו לו, מפני רשתות שמביאים עליהם אדם. So they said that because the people bring different nets that they want to catch us. אמר להם, רצונכם שתעלו ברשעה ונדור אני איתכם? How about if you come here, up here to the dry land and we live together in peace? You know, it's like the Shem said to Yaakov's children, let's live in peace together. אמרו לו, אתה הוא שאומרים לך פיקח ברכות, you are the one that they said that you are smart of the animals, לא פיקח אתה לטיפש, אתה, you're stupid, you're fool. Why? ומה מקום חייתנו מתארים, מקום מתארים לך כמה וכמה, if the place that we still live, which is the water, we have a fear, the place that we are already no longer among the living, the dry land, we cannot breathe, so you're expecting us to, ואף אנחנו, the same us, עכשיו שאנחנו חושבים ועוסקים בתורה שכתוב בהכירו רחמך, now that we are occupied with the Torah, because they said that this is your life, they said in Deuteronomy 30, that's your length of life, כך, אם אנו הולכים מתבטלים ממנה על אחת כמה וכמה, if you go and we absent from the study of Torah, how much so? אמרו לו היו מיעוטים, אלא שתפסו רבי עקיבא וחפשו בבית האסורים. Several days afterward, unfortunately, they took him and put him in a jail, prison. ותפסו לפפוס בן יהודה וחפשו אצלו, they also caught פפוס בן יהודה and confined him in the jail. So several questions if they confined him because of that incident or because of other reasons. אמר לו, פפוס, מי יבוא הלכה לכאן? So Rabbi Akiva said to him, Papus, who brought you here? אמר לי, אשריך רבי עקיבא, now we call him Rabbi, unlike Akiva before. He said, שנספס לדברי תורה. Or לפפוס invited him. The difference between us, you should be praiseworthy because they caught you. Why? Because you teach Torah in public. I am here for what? For meaningless things. You know, for example, for the Mashal and Nimshal, I'm here. בשעה שהוציאו את רבי עקיבא להריגה, when they later put Rabbi Akiva to a time of death, that's part of the 10 martyrs we read unfortunately during the Musaf of Yom Kippur, so Gemalchus, זמן קריאת שמע היה, it was a time of reciting Shema, terrible story. והיו סורקים אל בשרו במסכות של ברזל, והיה מקבל ארון מלכות שמיים, at that time, they, meaning the Romans, so combing his flesh with iron combs, which means is a tragic death, cruel death, and he accepted the heavenly kingdom. As we said many times, our sages went to a horrific death more than anybody in other religion believe, right? Or think. אמרו לו תלמידיו, רבנו עד כאן, they said, our teacher, even at that extent, אמר להם, כל ימי הייתי מצר על פסוק זה. All my life I was feel bad about the sentence, it's written, בכל נפשך, you should love your heart with all your heart. You love your God with all your heart, אפילו נותן את נפשך. מתי יבוא לידי לקמנו? That even God take your soul, when this will come to me and I will fulfill. ועכשיו שבא לידי לקמנו, now it's I come to my hand, I am able to do it and I should not fulfill it. היה מעריך באחד לשנימתו יצא באחד. He continued until he finished שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד, and his soul departed from him when he finished אחד. יצא בת קול ואמרה, a voice eminent from heaven and said, אשריך רבי עקיבא שיצא נשמתך באחד, praiseworthy with you Rabbi Akiva, that your soul came out with אחד, which is the proclaim of unity of God. אמרו מלאכי אשר לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא זאת תורה וזה שכרה. So the angels in heaven said before God, this is the Torah and this is his reward. So they said, ממתים ידך השם, ממתים חלקם בחיים, ממתים ידך השם. They said, for those who die in you Hashem, those who die, which means the old age, אמר להם מחלקל בחיים. God said, their portion is the eternal life. יצאה בת קול ואמרה, אשריך רבי עקיבא שאתה מזומן לעולם הבא. The voice came from heaven and permanent and said, fortunately, Rabbi Akiva, that you are part of the world to come. So it's just a side note, we don't have much time. The Tzlach asked a question. He says, what exactly the student of Rabbi Akiva asked? It's obvious, is Yareg Val Yavo, you should die and you should not violate Torah law. So, and especially all this discussion, when they put all these masrekot shel barzel, the flesh irons comes, and that the time he accept Malchut Shamayim upon him, and then they talk to the Rebbe. So the Tzlach brought the Gemarah in Makot that we studied. They said, Chavivin Yisurim, that the sorrow sometimes is praiseworthy, because it's very deep concept in faith. They said, if a person die and Kiddush Hashem for sanctification of name of God, it's one time act of heroism. But if a person suffer tortures, that's much deeper level of faith. For example, the Gemarah said, take Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, the three great people that put them in a fire, Nebuchadnezzar. So they go to the Kivshan, right? But here, it's a different stage. But basically, the Ben Yehoyada and Maharsha said that all this went over a period of time, which means that discussion and that death were two different times. Which means he died, but this talk between Rabbi Akiva and his students most probably, according to them, happened earlier stage when he was in the prison. Then the Mishnah state, לא יקל אדם את ראשו כנגד שער המזרח, שמכוון כנגד הקודשים. A person, that's applied the time of the first Beit HaMikdash, Beit Rishon, the first temple. So it was a one building, because in the second Beit HaMikdash it was a parochet, בין abadim, it was a special curtain. אמר רב יהודה אמר רב לו, אמרו אליו מן הצופים ולפנים וברואה. This apply only from the outlook within, and when you see the Beit HaMikdash, it marna אמר רבי חייא ברבא, אמר רבי אבא ברד רבי חייא ברבא אחי אמר רבי יוחנן, לא אמרו אליו מן הצופים ולפנים, which means he see the Arabite, he see the temple mount. וברואה, when he only can see the temple, which אין גדר, which means that there is no mechitza, there is no separation between him and the temple mount. ובזמן שהשכינה שורה, it's applied the time that the temple stand, which means Beit HaMikdash Kayam, that's the time. Which means that's a certain condition to have that Yakel Rosho, that person should not be light-heartedly opposite the gate. Tanu Rabbanan Lifnei Yehuda lo yipaneh mizrach u'ma'arav. Again, this act of respect, the person will need to depict himself, so he should not make it between the east and west. Again, anything that it's toward the Har HaBayit or the Temple Mount. Ela tzafon v'darom, which means if Yerushalayim, it's north to south, so it's only part of his side is temple, is the Beit HaMikdash, right? U'bagalil lo yipaneh lamizrach u'ma'arav, and the same in the Galilite, not between east and west. It's all because face, the respect is not to the Beit HaMikdash. As you know, when we're praying, we think about the Beit HaMikdash. So a person go to a bathroom, so it should not be in a way that it's facing that way. Rabbi Yossi Mati, Rabbi Yossi allow. Rabbi Yossi Omer lo asur ala baroer. Rabbi Yossi hold that will not only apply if you see it, or makom shem gader, in a place that it's a fence, right? ובזמן שהשכינה שורה, and it's time that Beit HaMikdash is existent. וחכמים מוסרים, but the sages forbids it. חכמים אמרו תנא קמא, so what's the difference between the תנא קמא and חכמים? They both say the same thing. יקבלנו צדדים, which means, according to the Kama, tzdadim asurim, the tzdadim, the sides, the area directly opposite is forbidden. Chachamim said, rak keneged Har HaBayit, only across from the Har HaBayit, but the south part, so it's not a problem to do it. תניא אידך, הנפנה ביהודה לא יפנה מזרח ומערב, אלא צפון ודרום, צפון ודרום אסור, מזרח ומערב מותר, ובגליל צפון ודרום אסור, מזרח ומערב מותר. The same, רבי יוסי מתיר, רבי יוסי אלאו, שרבי יוסי אומר לו אסור אלא ברואה. The same idea, but different brighter. רבי יהודה אומר, בזמן שמקדש קיים אסור, בזמן שמקדש קיים מותר, רבי עקיבא אוסר בכל מקום. The one Tana said that it's only when a temple is existent, the other allow. Rabbi Akiva said anywhere it's forbidden. Rabbi Akiva and Tanakama, it's again, Rabbi Akiva the same as first one. Ika benai chutz la'aretz. So the difference is that if it's outside of Eretz Israel, so then Rabbi Akiva hold that even outside of Eretz Israel, so a person should still, because think about it, when we're praying toward the Rabba havushad yelei levnei mizrach u'ma'arav, right? The whole concern now, it's about hemorrhoids, right? So Rabbah, he was in Babylon, so it's north to Jerusalem. So he have two bricks to place. In other words, in those days, in order to avoid hemorrhoids, so they build the toilet, the bathroom, they build like two bricks. And the people can stand and sit there. אז על הבית יש דנו צפון ודרום. So Abai went and he placed them and he changed it different direction, north to south. Al Rabba Tartzinu, so we understand Rabba Al Rabba Tartzinu. So Abba went and strengthened them, and he said, Amar Haiman dem Mitzarli, who is that to create sorrow for me? That moving this brick. Ana Rabbi Akiva Svirli b'chol makom asur. So therefore, I hold like Rabbi Akiva that every place is forbidden. So therefore, it's a east to west, and north to south, it's the Temple Mount. So that's the difference, that Rabbi Akiva hold that even you are outside of Israel, it's also have a